Hey guys, so in the last video we went over variables and the console.log statement, and in this video let's just go over the different types of variables. So let's just spin up the website quickly, and I'm just going to add some space here where we can type in the different variables that we have, and I'm going to change the name here to var_string. So if you couldn't guess by that, the first variable we're going to be looking at is string. So a string is basically anything between double quotes or single quotes. So it can be words, it can be numbers, anything. And in programming, any programming language, a string is treated as just text. So even if we had a number in here like 12, this is just a number, but because it's surrounded by quotes, it will be taken as a string. So this will be like a sentence or text. If we wanted to store actual numbers, we need to do a integer. So I'm going to name this variable var_int, and I'm going to set it equal to 12 as well. So these two 12s are not the same. This counts as words, and this is an actual number that we can do maths and stuff on. So now that we know how words and numbers work, there are a few different things we can also do with numbers. Like there's something called float and double, which is basically just numbers with the decimal point. But I don't think you really need to get into that right now. The next thing we want to look at is booleans. So I'm going to name this var_bool. And this can be either true or false. And the reason why we would use this is if we were checking if something is true. So for example, if this age was entered in by a user and we needed to make sure that it's like over 18, for example, then we don't know what the value of this will be while we're coding it. The user could type anything in here. So we need to check if the thing that they typed in is greater than 18, and that's the reason why we'd use these bools. It would be the return value of that. So if we check if this number is less than 18, it will say true. If we check if it's greater than 18, obviously 12 is not greater than 18, so it would say false. But we'll look more at that when we get into if statements. So the next variable type that we want to look at is called arrays. So we can call it arrays or lists, and I'm just going to call this var_array. And to create one of these, we want to use the square brackets. And a list or array is just a list of items. So for example, we can put a string in here of the name Theo, and then next to it we need to put a comma. So now we're putting a second item in here. I'm going to put another string. I'm going to say apple, and I can even put another string here like 25. This 25 is not a string, it's an integer. But yeah, that's basically how arrays work. You just store multiple values in the same array, and you can access these different values by, for example, printing out var_array, and then we add in our square brackets here, and we put the position of the value that we want. Now in JavaScript we start with 0, so this string Theo is at position 0 in the array. The string apple is at position 1 in the array, and the number 25 is at position 2 in the array. So let's print out the first position, and we should be expecting to get the word apple back here. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to open up the console here. Remember, you can either press F12 or you can right click and select inspect and then head to the console here. And we can see the word apple printed back here. So if I were to type 0 here, we'd expect it to say Theo here, which it does. And yeah, that's basically how arrays work. So next, let's look at objects. So this isn't really a variable type, but in JavaScript it's kind of used like a variable. In other programming languages we don't use it this way. So I'm just going to call this var underscore object, and to create one we just use our curly braces here, and inside of here we just want to type key and value pairs. So for example, I can type the key name, and notice that I didn't put this in quotes. That's because I'm not storing a variable here. I'm creating a brand new variable called name, and you use this I think it's called a colon here. It's just the 2 dots, and next to that you put an actual value, like for example Theo. So here I'm going to use a quotes and type Theo, and then next to this we can put a comma and even give it a second value like fruit, and then let me capitalize that and our colon thing, and then we put a second value here, so I'll just put apple again. And now to use this object, all we need to do is we need to say the name of the object here, underscore object, and then we put a dot, and you can see in this list here the 2 values that we created pop up. So if I wanted to access the name property, I could click that. If I save, it would print out the name. If we wanted to access the fruit property, we can just click on that here, and if I save, it would print out the fruit. So that's how objects work in JavaScript. I don't really want to cover anything more in this video. We just went over the different variable types right now. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe, and I will be posting more videos in the future. So yeah guys, I'll see you in the next video.